you making tape loops, and early records using tape loops where you take a James Brown break or a funk break or whatever, build records around that, about sections of records.
I noticed that there was this kind of sound that's coming from these records that weren't kind of 808 based, it was kind of just different, so I kind of did my nerdy thing at the time, and found out that this machine was used on quite a lot of records that I was buying at the time or listening to at the time. So when I had the opportunity to get one, I got one.
So when this came out, it was almost like a breath of fresh air.
It was a way of modelling the music that inspired me. The default sounds are rubbish. What the hell's going on? Do you know what I mean? Where's that sub? Where's that, So once I kind of got into it and started using it as an instrument, sampling elements, percussive sounds initially, but then you start sampling, musical elements and textures, it just becomes its own world.
It was a great label to be on at the time, because there was only a few other labels who really were whose output was rooted in this kind of music. There were others. Ninja Tunes obviously dabbled with DJ Food and what Cold Cut were doing. There's a bunch of other labels, of course.
Right.
You're putting the sounds in yourself and you're editing them yourself with the nuances of your equipment, right? Typically, if you've got an old needle, when it samples in here, it's going to have a texture to it, right? You've got 8 separate outs for each, because this is what they call an 8-voice machine. There's something about how it sounds coming just in mono for the mix out compared to bring out on separate outputs. So a lot of the time when you're mixing records, you'll kind of deliberate that. Output 1 has basically what's got known as a low-pass filter on it.
In today's standards, manufacturers would do that because obviously we have the technology to have control over lots of control, right? But at the time, it was like an engineering decision, which actually works really well. Right at the top was channel 8, the hi-hats and crash cymbals that need obviously full bandwidth. Sometimes you might use the stock sounds to layer. And if you really want to nerd out and know whether somebody's made a record in SP-12, between, in the early 80s, listen out for the hi-hats. If you hear that hi-hat, you know it's an SP-12. So, why don't I just, sample something. So listen. The idea is that you'll find a section you want to work with, and then you'll go to the sampling section and basically, record it. So this has got a great break at the beginning. It's been rinsed. Absolutely rinsed. Right, cool. So I'm going to hit play, and then when it gets to the bit I want, I just hit 9 on here, and then it's going to capture it, right? Ready? Now sample. Right, so he told me, what did he tell me? So then it says check and sample, and then when it says sample is good, you're good. And now user 1 is basically, right? So I've got that loop in here. This was the most important bit for scratch DJs, because it had all the stabs from all the records, all of them, just all of this record here. That's me, right there. So these records were DJ tools. You could obviously use them for DJ, beat mixing between sections, but obviously for producers, these were like gold mines. Okay, good. So I've got that in now, right? So now, because I've sampled that out, So what I'll now do is I will now go to tune. Right? So now I can tune it down, I've got way more of the break to use. Not bad. That's a good start, right? So, let me add some more.
So where my mind is now, my mind is shifting from drums to something melodic, right? So, sick. A lot of the time I'll just needle drop. So I've got a few choices here. I could use this as a loop. Or there's a loop function here where I can loop a section of it, right? Let me just show you that real quick. Cool, right, so I've got 8 different variations there, right? So I can... whatever I want to do, so... There's a couple, there's obviously lots of places I can go, but just very simply, I'm going to sample one more sound, find something else real quick. It's not about whether or not, this track is in C minor, make sure this is something in C minor. That's out the window. What this is about, it's about sound and manipulating sound, right? So I've got this beat here, I'm going to sample something in from here. If it's in key, amazing. If it's not, then I have to think about tuning whatever I get from here into the track. Does that make sense, right? And it's this minor, the funkiness of the tuning when you use it, when you work in this way, is again what has given us this thing called fat, or this thing called vintage. This idea of pitch fluctuations between elements. Because they're from different records, things have been pitched. Maybe a turntable is old and it's it's wobbling. Maybe the needle is old and it's got some static on it, or some fluff or whatever. All these kind of like little textual nuances are what makes this such a great way of working. Cool. I have no idea what I'm doing. But this is great, right? So let me just get this up. But when it comes to kind of, capturing audio and manipulating audio, whether it's short snippets or slightly longer snippets, and multi-pitching and layering, this is a fantastic way of working. And, this could be the foundation of a song, or it could be like a beat that I've created that I can then play some strings or chords or whatever I want on top of it. Of course, I'd have to be mindful of the key and stuff, of course, but, to get things going, this is a really, really good way of working. And then I'll hit record, and then basically try something out. So I basically have a jam with the levels and record that to a computer or to a flash drive, and then use these like breaks in my track. It's a really great way of creating music, whether you're using SP-12 or you're using other tools. This idea of restricting yourself you know, kind of freeing yourself from, sometimes from tonality, sometimes from harmony, and actually creating different relationships with things, whether it's volume or by filtering or by crafting sound. You know, you come up with different ways of working and inspiration. Wicked. Thank you.
So I've listened